Tensions between the United States and Venezuela have surged to a breaking point following Washington's announcement that it will designate the alleged Cartel de los Soles (CDLs) as a foreign terrorist organization (FTO), effective November 24, 2025. The decision, unveiled by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, dramatically ratchets up pressure on President Nicolas Maduro's government. In swift response, Venezuela has condemned the move, with Foreign Minister Iván Gil calling it a new and ridiculous fabrication and a thinly veiled justification for illegitimate and illegal intervention, a statement he issued via telegram. The term Cartel de los Soles, or Cartel of the Suns, does not refer to a traditional drug cartel. Instead, it serves as a symbolic label for suspected criminal networks deeply embedded within Venezuela's state apparatus, particularly among senior military officers whose uniforms bear sun-shaped insignia. U.S. authorities accuse these figures of orchestrating large-scale narco-trafficking, systemic corruption, and collusion with transnational criminal syndicates. Washington justifies the FTO designation by framing the CDLs as a narco-terrorist enterprise that has infiltrated Venezuela's core institutions. In a statement released on November 16, 2025, the State Department alleged the network is headed by Nicolas Maduro and other high-ranking figures of the illegitimate Maduro regime, who have corrupted Venezuela's military, intelligence services, legislature, and judiciary. This echoes a landmark 2020 U.S. Justice Department indictment that charged Maduro and several allies with conspiring to flood the United States with cocaine. Critically, U.S. officials also assert a direct link to global terrorism. The CDLs, they claim, provides material support to other designated terrorist entities, including Venezuela's own Tren de Aragua and Mexico's notorious Sinaloa cartel. These allegations gained added weight following a July 2025 Treasury Department action that labeled the CDLs as specially designated global terrorist. Legally, the FTO designation, authorized under Section 219 of the Immigration and Nationality Act, unlocks sweeping consequences. It criminalizes any form of material support to the group, triggers immediate asset freezes, and imposes strict travel bans. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth underscored its strategic value, noting the move brings a whole bunch of new options to the United States, hinting at expanded military, intelligence, and law enforcement capabilities. Caracas has fiercely rejected the designation, insisting the Cartel de los Soles does not exist as a coherent organization. Foreign Minister Gil dismissed it as a non-existent construct, a view echoed by some independent analysts. Adam Isaacson of the Washington Office on Latin America, for instance, describes the CDLs not as a structured cartel but as a diffuse web of corruption, fluid, opportunistic, and devoid of centralized command. Venezuela frames the U.S. move as the latest chapter in a long-running campaign of regime change, driven by desires to seize control of the country's vast oil and mineral wealth. This narrative gains traction from recent developments. Since early September 2025, the U.S. has significantly increased its military presence in the Caribbean under the guise of a counter-drug operation, conducting 21 kinetic strikes in international waters and reportedly causing 83 fatalities. The November 24 FTO designation thus arrives amid a steady drumbeat of U.S. pressure, notably following the Treasury's earlier terrorist label in July, suggesting a coordinated strategy to isolate and destabilize the Maduro government. The controversy over the CDLs reveals deeper ambiguities. Is it a terrorist organization, a criminal syndicate, or simply a metaphor for state decay? Venezuela exploits this uncertainty to cast U.S. actions as politically weaponized fiction. By denying the cartel's formal existence, Caracas positions Washington's moves as acts of aggression disguised as law enforcement. For the U.S., however, the FTO label is less about doctrinal precision and more about strategic flexibility. Invoking Section 219 allows Washington to bypass traditional constraints, enabling more aggressive sanctions, financial blacklisting, and even covert or kinetic operations, all under the banner of counterterrorism. The designation of the alleged Cartel de los Soles as a foreign terrorist organization marks a pivotal escalation in U.S.-Venezuela relations. Whether seen as a legitimate response to narco-terrorism or a pretext for intervention, it unquestionably expands America's toolkit for exerting pressure on Maduro's regime. Venezuela, meanwhile, sees only threat and hypocrisy and imperial power cloaking economic and geopolitical ambitions in the language of security. With both sides entrenched in mutual distrust, this latest maneuver doesn't just raise the stakes, it risks pushing a volatile standoff toward a more dangerous threshold.
The coming months will test not only the resilience of Venezuela's government but also the limits of U.S. coercive diplomacy in a deeply polarized region.